you want to know, where does the Bible say Jesus pre-existed? Just anywhere. It's very clear where. John 1:15 and 1:30. John says, one coming after me, right? Because they're all looking at John and he's doing all this stuff. And John was born before Jesus as a man. So John says, there's one coming after me who's better than me because he was before me. How could that be? If John was born before Jesus as a man, and John is saying this person who was born after me actually existed before me, so he's superior to me. I have never had a Socinian explain that to me, and I presented it several times, and there's just no answer. It kind of gets weird, but I'm open to anybody who can tell me exactly how John could believe Jesus existed before him when he was actually born before Jesus.
So you have John 1:15. One paraphrase reads, "The one who is coming after me is greater than I am because he was living before I was even born." And some translations read, "The one who is coming after me ranks ahead of me because he existed before me. And again, after me comes a man who ranks above me because he existed before me." So these are sayings by John the Baptist. He's believed to have been at least 6 months older than him. So did John the Baptist really believe his younger cousin was older than him? So if we look at the first part of the phrase by the Baptist, he's talking about authority, someone coming that will outrank him. The Greek there is simply meaning rank or status, as some translations that we saw read. In the other parallel passages in Mark and Matthew, this is because the one coming or behind the Baptist, as it were, some believe Jesus was part of the early disciples of the Baptist, is more powerful than he is. Contrast the Baptist, also who's said to have been sent from God and was ahead of Jesus in time, that is, he was born before Jesus was born, though clearly not in status or rank in John 3:28. So some translations read, "You yourself," says the Baptist, "can testify that I said, I am not the Messiah, but am sent ahead of him." And some paraphrase this as the Baptist saying, "I'm only the one God sent to prepare the way for him." So the Baptist knows his role as one who's preparing the way for the Lord, as he says in one of the Gospels. But never would he have thought he was preparing the way from some pre-existent Messiah that was older than him. The same Greek word can be found in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament in Genesis 48, when Abraham placed Ephraim before Manasseh. And that word before there is the same one used in John 1:15 and John 1:30. So this is about status and rank. It's not about chronological timelines. So in John 1:30 again, "A man who was before me," he says. Now I'll show you here a couple of ways to understand this, apart from a literal preexistence, as if the Baptist is talking about a being that somehow existed before the Baptist was born. So one way of looking at this is through the lens of preeminence or chiefdom that is emphasized once again. This man, this human being who was before me, as he had previously said, is greater than him because he outranks him. So this would be a tautology. Another way of looking at it is through the chronological timeline, but as a prophetic promise that has been fulfilled. So what was foretold, foreknown about the Messiah, that he would be the seed of the woman all the way back in Genesis 3, and the prophet Micah talking about his origins are from old, it could simply mean that this figure, this Messiah figure that the Baptist was preparing the way for, had been prophesied way before the Baptist was even born, not that he literally pre-existed as a person, let alone as God the Son, or an angel, or a little g God. Now this phrase, origins from old, in Micah 5, we find a parallel in the same book. In chapter 7, "You will extend truth to Jacob, mercy to Abraham, that you swore to our ancestors from the days of old." So you see there a prophetic promise regarding the patriarchs of Israel, and that prophecy, that promise goes back to the days of old, or the days of antiquity, or some translations or paraphrases simply say, "From ancient times you promised this." And again, note the word in John 1:30, man, a human being, meaning that John's focus is always the human Messiah. And you have the great climax to the whole gospel in John 20:31, where John says that you must believe that he is the Son of God, the Christ of God. And in order to be a Messiah figure, you have to be a human being. God the Son or an angel or whatever cannot be said to be a legitimate anointed descendant of David, let alone a mediator for humanity. Let's look at a quote from J.T. Robinson here. He wrote that the gospel portrays Jesus in Jewish apocalyptic mysticism of primacy and ultimacy, before and after, above and below. For what's here is a greater than Solomon or Moses, than Jacob or Abraham, and so must be recognized as being before them and above them, and indeed before all and above all. But what is here is a man who has been given an authority as the authentic Son of Man, reaching back to the very beginning of God's purpose and extending to its end. And then you can compare that to his allusion to Daniel 7, the Son of Man figure. Even the most exalted Johannine affirmations of timeless preexistence and heavenly ascendancy are made not to question his humanity, but to enhance it. In fact, says Robinson, when the Baptist reiterates the assertion of Jesus' priority in John 1:30, he adds the word a male or a man. To say that Jesus is before him, before the Baptist, is not to lift him out of the ranks of humanity, but to assert his unconditional precedence, to take such statements at the level of flesh, to imply, as the Jews interpret him, that at less than 50 years old, Jesus is claiming to have lived on this earth before Abraham, is to be as crass as Nicodemus, who understands rebirth as an old man entering his mother's womb a second time. These are not assertions about the ego or the person of the human Jesus, which is no more pre-existent than that of any other human being, nor are statements about the glory that he enjoyed with the Father before the world was, John 17:5, to be taken at the level of psychological reminiscence. As such, they would clearly be destructive of any genuine humanness.